Would you recognize Jesus if he was sitting right beside you? Like if he was right there, would you recognize him? Have a look to your right. Have a look to your left. He is sitting right beside you. This is a fantastic story. It's got to be one of my favorites because it actually demonstrates that Jesus has a sense of humor. He's a bit of a prankster. Listen to this. A reading from the Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Now, on that same day, 2 of the disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days?" Jesus asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and before all the people, and how our chief priests and the leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it's now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some of the women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and they told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." As they came near to the village to which they were going, Jesus walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it's almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, he blessed it and broke it, and he gave it to them. And then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, first of all, Jesus is unrecognizable to the disciples. Okay? He's showing up, and he's not like he's looked for the last 3 years of hanging out together. We don't know exactly what he looked like, but for some reason his resurrected body is not familiar to these guys. But second, he doesn't make any effort to make himself known to these guys. He just pulls up. He's like, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" And they're like, "What do you mean? What are we talking? Haven't you heard like this big news? Jesus of Nazareth was crucified." Jesus plays along, and he doesn't reveal himself to them. And I just think that's such a honest look at just the person of Jesus. He's playful, and he's back with his disciples, and he's enjoying toying with them, which I think is just awesome. But they didn't recognize him. He was right beside them. They spent 3 years with him, and they didn't recognize him. And this can be us on any given day. If you looked to your right and you looked to your left, you're going to see a fellow human being standing beside you, sitting beside you. And they've got their stories, and they've got their hurts, right? They got their hopes and dreams, and Jesus is behind all of it. He has created each one of us, and we bear him inside of us, the image of God. Jesus himself is in each person that you meet. And yet, how often do we treat people poorly? We tease them, bully them, ignore them, talk down to them, talk over them, dismiss them, abuse them. Fact is, we don't recognize Jesus walking right beside us. So don't walk beside somebody every day and forget that Jesus is with them. Jesus is in them. Jesus is walking beside you through them. Outside in this week, who in your life reminds you most of Jesus? Who in your life has treated you like you might imagine Jesus would? And who in your life, who around you, have you thought is the least like Jesus? I want you to recognize Jesus in both of those people this week because he's in each of them. Love you guys.